He's not guarding the man. He's guarding the truth. The fluorescent lights of St. Mercy Hospital flicker above the empty ICU corridor, their sterile glow reflecting faintly on the polished linoleum floor, while the soft hum of monitors pulses in rhythm with the heartbeats of unseen patients. Outside room 412, a shadow moves, though no one else notices it at this hour. Atlas, a white German shepherd, sits motionless on the edge of the hallway, his sleek fur slightly damp from the drizzle earlier in the evening, ears pricked, amber eyes locked with unwavering focus. He is perfectly still, yet every muscle in his body is coiled, alert, ready. The scent of antiseptic mixes with the faint hint of rain dripping from the eaves outside, and the cold air stings his wet nose as he breathes slowly, deliberately. Staff Sergeant Malcolm Hayes lies inside, swathed in pale hospital sheets, his chest rising and falling in shallow rhythm, a monitor beeping quietly beside him, registering life, but barely. Malcolm's skin is dark and taut against the blanket, a map of scars from missions past, his face calm, yet fraught with the quiet weight of survival. No one is with him tonight. His family is hours away, and the staff has long since retreated to the nurse's station for a momentary reprieve. Atlas does not leave his post, not even for a moment, his gaze unwavering, fixed on the subtle movements near the foot of the bed. Dr. Emily Carter, making her routine rounds, notices the dog immediately. She stops in her tracks, clipboard clutched in one hand, stethoscope resting around her neck, and watches Atlas tilt his head, ears flicking toward the corner of the room where a small medical tray sits, its contents unassuming to anyone else. There is no barking, no growl, just the quiet, deliberate patience that speaks louder than any alarm could. The scent that clings to the hallway shifts slightly as she approaches, carrying with it the faint tang of antiseptic and something else she can't name, a metallic undertone that makes her pulse quicken without reason. Atlas shifts a fraction, muscles tensing like a spring ready to release, and she notices the deliberate rhythm of his paw. Against the floor, tap, 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 each strike measured, signaling attention, perhaps warning, perhaps just observation. The rain outside taps a gentle rhythm on the glass, echoing the soft shuffling of shoes down distant hallways, blending with the distant low murmur of the HVAC system, a soundtrack of quiet tension. Emily crouches slightly to bring herself closer to Atlas's level, her eyes tracing the line of his stare, following it to the subtle bulge beneath Malcolm's hospital blanket, the dog tag glinting faintly under the dim light. The weight of anticipation hangs in the air, and for the first time in hours, Emily feels her pulse synchronize with the careful, methodical breaths of Atlas. She reaches out slowly, as if her movement alone could disrupt the fragile balance of vigilance. And for a heartbeat the dog's ears swivel, but he does not flinch. He waits, knowing she is just beginning to see what he already knows. The hall is otherwise silent, the occasional beep of a monitor from a neighboring room the only interruption, and the glow from the ceiling lights casts long, sharp shadows across the polished floor. Atlas's tail curls slightly around his haunches, the subtle movement betraying a quiet tension, a signal of focus honed through years of training and instinct, a reminder that patience and observation can speak louder than sound. Emily's breath hitches softly, a barely perceptible acknowledgement of the bond she senses, not between her and the dog, but between Atlas and the man inside the room, a connection forged in shared experience and unwavering loyalty. Outside, the rain begins to pick up again, tapping against the glass with renewed insistence, a gentle percussion that underscores the stillness of the scene, each drop falling in quiet accompaniment to Atlas's watchful vigil, the guardian of secrets not yet revealed, the silent sentinel of a truth only he can see, waiting for the moment to signal that the unseen has been noticed, that the balance is shifting, that the first thread of revelation is about to unravel in the quiet hum of the ICU. Night. Dr. Emily Carter has spent 17 years learning how to trust machines before emotions. Numbers before instinct, charts before stories whispered in hallways by tired nurses at 3 o'clock in the morning. She knows how oxygen saturation should rise after a certain adjustment, how a pulse should respond when pain medication is reduced, how the human body often speaks in patterns long before it speaks in words. That is why Staff Sergeant Malcolm Hayes unsettles her. Not because he is the sickest patient in the intensive care unit. He is not. Not because his injuries are beyond explanation. They are not. It is because everything about him should be improving, slowly but steadily, and yet every night his body seems to drift backward, as if some unseen tide is pulling him away from shore. Emily stands at the foot of his bed with the chart open against her arm, listening to the quiet rhythm of the monitor. Beep, breath, beep, breath. The room is washed in a pale blue glow from the screen beside him, soft enough to make the white sheets look almost silver. Rain trails down the window in thin, crooked lines, catching the distant lights of Norfolk beyond the glass. Somewhere far below, an ambulance turns into the emergency bay without sirens, just flashing red against wet pavement. Inside room 412, everything is controlled. Everything is labeled. Everything is clean. And still, something feels wrong. Malcolm lies still beneath the blanket, his broad shoulders barely moving with each assisted breath, his face calm in a way that makes him look less asleep than far away. He is 36 years old, a decorated United States Marine, a black man with close-cut hair, a strong jaw, and the kind of quiet presence that remains in a room even when the person cannot speak. His hands rest at his sides, one partly curled, the other near the edge of the blanket where his dog tags had been placed earlier that evening in a sealed hospital bag. Emily remembers reading the intake notes. Found unresponsive after a vehicle incident near the Naval Medical Supply Annex. No signs of worsening trauma. No major brain swelling. Stable cardiac rhythm. Unexplained failure to regain consciousness. That last sentence bothers her most. Unexplained. Doctors use that word when the truth has not arrived yet. They do not use it when the truth is absent. She checks his pupils again, then the intravenous pump, then the medication log. Nothing jumps out. Nothing screams. That is the problem. The danger in this room is not loud. It is quiet enough to hide behind normal readings. Emily glances toward the glass wall. Atlas is still there, a white shape in the hallway, sitting beneath the dim night light like a statue carved from winter. His amber eyes do not blink. When she steps closer to Malcolm's left side, the dog's ears lift. When her hand hovers near the pump, he leans forward. Not anxious. Not begging. Watching. Emily feels a strange pressure behind her ribs, the kind she has not felt since her younger brother, Aaron, left for his last deployment 12 years ago. He had been a Marine too. He used to tell her that combat taught him one thing hospitals rarely did. Sometimes silence was information. Sometimes the quietest person in the room knew the most. She had smiled then, humoring him, because she believed in scans, labs, and procedures. Aaron believed in gut feelings, good boots, and dogs that could sense weather before clouds formed. Now, in the dim glow of the intensive care unit, she finds herself thinking of him as she looks from Malcolm to Atlas and back again. The clock above the door reads 2:16 in the morning. Emily watches the second hand crawl. The room seems to narrow around that small white circle on the wall. 2:17 arrives without ceremony. No alarm sounds. No nurse rushes in. No dramatic change breaks the surface. But Malcolm's heart rate dips by 3 beats. Then 4. His oxygen level slips 1 point. Then another. The change is small. Too small for panic. Too consistent for comfort. Atlas rises at once. His paws make no sound on the hallway floor. He steps closer to the glass and gives 3 slow taps with one paw. Tap, tap, tap. Emily turns sharply toward the monitor, then toward the intravenous line running into Malcolm's arm. The fluid chamber trembles with a tiny pulse. Nothing more. Nothing visible. Yet the dog has seen enough to stand. Emily moves to the pump and checks the settings again. Correct dose. Correct time. Correct patient. Correct everything. Her throat tightens. Correct things can still be used in the wrong way. She looks at the medication schedule and notices a small note entered by a consulting physician just after midnight. An adjustment so minor most doctors would pass over it before coffee. Sedation support continued overnight. Review in morning. Signed by Dr. Nathan Voss. Emily knows the name. Everyone does. Polished. Respected. Calm in emergencies. The kind of doctor administrators trust because his voice never rises. She has no reason to distrust him. Not one reason that would hold up in a meeting. Only a dog in the hallway. Only a patient who fades at the same time every night. only a feeling she does not want to name. Atlas lowers his head, nose near the bottom of the glass, eyes fixed not on Malcolm's face but beneath the bed where the sealed personal effects bag rests on a low shelf. Emily follows his stare. The dog tags catch a thin blade of monitor light through the plastic. For one brief second, they glint like a signal from deep water. Emily steps closer. Atlas stops tapping. The monitor steadies. Outside, the rain keeps falling over Norfolk, soft and patient. While inside room 412, a doctor who has spent her whole life trusting proof begins to understand that proof does not always arrive first. Sometimes it waits outside the door, breathing quietly, covered in white fur, refusing to leave. Atlas shifts slightly in the hallway as Dr. Emily Carter moves closer to the foot of Malcolm Hayes's bed, her shoes making no sound on the polished floor, the soft drip of rain from the window merging with the distant hum of the hospital's ventilation system. She notices the way his amber eyes lock on her every movement, measuring, calculating, waiting for something only he understands. Malcolm lies still beneath the crisp white sheets, his broad shoulders rising in rhythm with each assisted breath, every subtle twitch of his fingers telling a story of life barely contained, of energy held in reserve for reasons no machine can measure. Emily glances down at the chart again, tracing the vital signs that have remained perplexingly stable, yet subtly uneven for hours. She knows that in her line of work, every anomaly is a message, and the pattern here is too deliberate to ignore. The slight dip in heart rate, the fraction of a % drop in oxygen saturation, the almost imperceptible pause in his chest movements at the same time every night. All of it adds up, and Atlas knows it. She crouches slightly to better align with the dog, feeling the cool tension radiating from him. The way he leans forward on his paws, ears alert, tail still, every sense directed toward the small, seemingly inconspicuous bag beneath the bed where Malcolm's dog tags and personal effects have been placed. Atlas's gaze does not waver, his body language unreadable yet precise, a testament to training and instinct honed over countless missions with Malcolm in the past. Emily notices the quiet intelligence in his stance, the way he communicates through stillness and minimal movement, a language of presence rather than sound. Outside, the rain intensifies, tapping a rhythm on the windows that seems to echo the heartbeat of the room, slow but steady, a metronome for the unspoken bond between dog and man. She allows herself a moment to observe, to connect the dots that she would usually dismiss in favor of clinical data, and she begins to understand that Atlas is not merely guarding Malcolm's physical body. He is observing, interpreting, and reacting to subtle cues invisible to anyone else. The intravenous lines, the monitors, the ambient hum of life support equipment, all are noted in the dog's awareness, and each movement, each tap of his paw against the floor, is a signal meant to draw attention to a detail overlooked by human eyes. Emily studies the alignment of the lines, the position of the bag, the faint glint of the dog tags catching the dim light, and she realizes that Atlas's vigilance is guiding her toward a truth she has not yet been able to see. She takes a slow step toward the bed, careful not to startle him, and watches as he tilts his head, ears swiveling in subtle increments, assessing her intentions while maintaining his silent watch. The quiet is profound, the kind of deep stillness that can only be felt when the world has paused for a fraction of a moment. And within that pause, Emily senses the gravity of the connection, the depth of mutual understanding forged between Marine and K9, the unspoken trust that persists even in the sterile, fluorescent-lit hallways of the hospital. Every detail matters here, the precise timing of Atlas's movements, the way his body tenses at the slight shift of a shadow, the way he exudes a presence that is both calming and commanding. Emily feels a stirring of emotion she cannot name, a mixture of awe, apprehension, and the quiet thrill of discovery, as if she is witnessing something sacred. She knows that Malcolm's life and the hidden truths he carries are entwined with the instincts and awareness of the dog standing before her. Atlas remains poised, unwavering, a sentinel shaped by experience, loyalty, and a unique comprehension of what is at stake. Emily watches him, understanding for the first time that the dog is not simply waiting. He is communicating, guiding, and protecting in ways that transcend words, charts, and procedures, embodying a vigilance that has been silently perfected over years of shared history and trust. The rain continues its soft percussion outside. The glow of the monitor washes over the room, and Emily realizes that in this quiet, dimly lit hallway, she is learning a new language, the language of loyalty, instinct, and unspoken signals, conveyed in every subtle movement, every measured breath, and every unwavering gaze of the white German shepherd who has chosen to stand watch over the secrets held within room 412. The memory of Malcolm Hayes and Atlas together stretches back to deployments long before the sterile walls of St. Mercy Hospital confined their presence to a room of beeping monitors and fluorescent light. Emily, observing Atlas with a mixture of caution and curiosity, allows herself to drift back alongside him, imagining the warmth of dusty hangars and the scent of salt and engine oil mingling with early morning fog, a smell that marked the beginning of each mission they had undertaken. Atlas had not always been a sentinel of quiet observation. In those years, he had run beside Malcolm across open fields, and between shipping containers, ears pricked to the smallest shift in wind, nose attuned to danger, paws silent against the rough concrete, a partner trained to anticipate without being told, to react before words were necessary. Emily thinks of the first time Malcolm had introduced Atlas into his world, a white German shepherd pup shivering on the steps of the base kennel, fur matted and eyes wide with the awareness of a soul that had survived too much already. Malcolm, tall, broad-shouldered, and deliberate in movement, knelt and held Atlas close, letting the warmth of his hands speak the words that had not yet been learned. You are safe now. You are seen. You belong. That bond, formed in silence and mutual recognition, had carried them through missions where the unexpected was routine, where the smallest sign could mean the difference between life preserved and opportunities lost. In the hospital hallway, Emily senses the echoes of that training, the quiet discipline etched into every muscle of Atlas's body, the way he balances focus with patience, strength with gentleness. She watches him tilt his head, nostrils flaring slightly as he sniffs the ambient air, the faint scent of latex, antiseptic, and the subtle metallic tang that has been there since the night began. His gaze is unbroken, unwavering, yet it carries a history that is almost tactile, a sense of shared experience and trust that transcends the walls of the room he guards. Emily notes the subtle shifts in the dog's stance, a paw placed slightly forward, a tail curling just so, a gentle lowering of the shoulders that signals awareness without agitation. Every micro-movement conveys information, a language of instinct and learned behavior that she is only beginning to decipher. She walks along the hallway, following Atlas's line of sight, noting how he remains parallel to her steps, never closing the distance more than necessary, always poised to act, always observing. Outside, the rain continues its quiet percussion, a rhythm against the windows that seems to synchronize with the subdued sounds within, the distant shuffle of staff, the soft hiss of the HVAC, and the occasional low beep of a neighboring monitor. Emily feels a tightening in her chest, a recognition that Atlas is more than a companion. He is a sentinel, a mediator between life and unseen threats, a being whose loyalty is matched by precision and unwavering attention. Memories of Malcolm's calm authority come forward, the way he used to brief his teams, voice low, deliberate, eyes scanning, assessing the environment, anticipating needs without being told, a reflection mirrored now in the disciplined composure of Atlas. Emily allows herself a breath, aligning her observation with the dog's. Every minute detail matters. The angle of light on the dog tags beneath the bed, the subtle vibration of the intravenous lines, the pattern of the drips in the chamber, the rhythm of Malcolm's shallow breathing. Atlas is cataloging all of it, silently, patiently, and Emily feels the stirrings of comprehension begin to take hold. She has seen attentive animals before, but none with this depth of understanding, this capacity to bridge human intention and subtle environmental cues without words, without overt display, only measured, deliberate response. In this quiet moment, she senses the weight of history, the lineage of discipline and shared life between man and dog, and she understands that the insights to come will not be discovered in a chart or a reading alone, but through the patient observation and unwavering focus of Atlas, the white German shepherd who has learned to see what others do not, to guard what others cannot, and to signal truths that must be understood before action can be taken. The glow of the monitors bathes the room in cool light. Rain continues its soft rhythm against the window, and Emily stands there, heart steadying as she takes in the full measure of Atlas's presence, knowing that the night ahead will reveal layers of insight and vigilance honed over years, a language of loyalty and instinct that she is only beginning to translate, a truth waiting patiently in the stillness for recognition and understanding. By 2:30 in the morning, the corridor outside room 412 has settled into that strange hospital quiet that never truly becomes silence. Somewhere down the hall, a cart will click softly over a seam in the floor. A nurse speaks in a low voice behind the glass of the station. The rain keeps tapping at the windows, patient and cold, as if Norfolk itself has leaned close to listen. Dr. Emily Carter remains near Malcolm Hayes's bed, one hand resting against the metal rail, her eyes moving between the monitor, the intravenous pump, and the sealed bag beneath the bed. Atlas has not moved from the hallway. His white coat catches the ceiling light and gives it back faintly, making him look almost unreal against the gray wall. But there is nothing ghostly about his focus. He is alive with attention. Every breath through his nose is measured. Every lift of his ears has purpose. Emily is about to call the pharmacy to review the overnight medication history when the elevator at the far end of the intensive care unit opens with a soft chime. The sound is ordinary. Atlas reacts as if the air has changed. His head turns first, then his shoulders rise. Then the stillness around him sharpens. Emily looks through the glass and sees Dr. Nathan Voss step into the corridor, carrying a thin tablet under one arm and a paper coffee cup in the other. He is dressed in a clean white coat over dark blue scrubs, his silver hair combed neatly, his badge clipped squarely to his chest. Everything about him is composed, polished, controlled. He moves with the calm confidence of a man who has never had to explain why people make room for him. A night nurse glances up and nods. "Dr. Voss," she says softly, "you are still here?" He gives a small, practiced smile. "Could not sleep. I wanted to check on Sergeant Hayes before morning rounds." His voice is warm enough to comfort a family member, smooth enough to settle a room. Emily has heard that tone before from respected physicians, the kind who speak quietly because authority does not need volume. Yet Atlas lowers his head the moment Voss comes within 20 feet of room 412. Not aggressively, not wildly. He simply becomes smaller, steadier, more certain. His paws spread against the floor. His tail goes still. His amber eyes lock on the left pocket of Voss's coat. Emily notices it because she is already looking for a pattern. Voss notices Atlas too. For less than a second, his expression changes. Not fear. Not surprise. Something thinner. Recognition, quickly buried. "That dog is still here?" he asks, stopping beside the glass. Emily steps out of Malcolm's room before answering. "He has been here most of the night." Voss looks down at Atlas with a smile that does not reach his eyes. Loyal animal. Atlas gives one low sound from deep in his chest, not loud enough to alarm anyone, but strong enough to make the nurse at the station stop typing. Emily feels the sound in her bones. It is not anger. It is identification. Voss takes one step closer to the door. Atlas takes one step with him, placing his body between Voss and the entrance. The gesture is so controlled that it feels trained, but there is something older beneath it, something rooted beyond command. Voss laughs softly. "I suppose he remembers me from intake." Emily's eyes lift. "You saw him that night." "Briefly," Voss says. "The paramedics were trying to keep the hallway clear. The dog was upset." Atlas does not blink. Emily remembers the note in Malcolm's chart. Patient arrived, without canine companion. K9 located later by military police near the annex perimeter. It is a small contradiction, almost nothing. But small things have ruled the night. She keeps her voice even. "I did not realize you were at the initial intake." Voss looks at her then, really looks, as if measuring how much she has noticed. "I consult on complicated neurological trauma. You know how these calls go." He lifts the tablet slightly. "May I?" Emily does not move from the doorway. His vitals are stable for now. "Stable is not awake," Voss replies, still calm. There is a difference. The words are clinical, but Atlas presses one paw against the glass beside the door. Tap. Then again. Tap. Then a third time. Tap. Emily's throat tightens. Voss glances down. That could become a sanitation issue. He is not inside the room, Emily says. No, Voss answers. But he seems to believe he belongs there. For the first time, a faint edge enters his voice. Emily hears it, and so does Atlas. The dog's ears tilt forward. Voss reaches toward the door sensor with his badge. Atlas shifts again, blocking as much of the doorway as his body can cover. He does not snarl. He does not lunge. He simply refuses. The whole hallway seems to hold its breath. Emily looks at Voss's left pocket, the one Atlas has been watching. There is a slight weight there, a shape beneath the fabric no larger than a prescription vial. It might be nothing. A penlight. A personal medication. A harmless object carried by a tired doctor during a long shift. But Atlas knows that pocket. Atlas knows that scent. Emily can see it in the rigid line of his back, in the careful flare of his nostrils, in the way his body remembers before the room understands. Voss lowers his badge slowly. His smile returns, thinner now. Perhaps we should discuss this outside the unit, he says. Emily keeps her hand near the door frame. Perhaps we should review the medication log first. A silence falls between them, clean and cold. Behind the glass, Malcolm's monitor gives one soft beep, then another, steady but fragile. Atlas remains at the threshold, white fur glowing beneath the dim light, guarding not with noise, not with force, but with the terrible patience of a creature who has smelled this danger before and has waited all night for someone human to finally believe him. The night deepens around room 412, and the soft hum of the intensive care unit seems to stretch, endless and patient, carrying the quiet rhythm of life and observation. Atlas remains at the threshold, immobile yet fully present, eyes never leaving the left pocket of Dr. Nathan Voss's coat. Dr. Emily Carter steps back slightly, letting the dog dictate the pace, letting his patience become her guide. She moves toward the computer station, reviewing Malcolm Hayes's overnight records, tracing the minor fluctuations in heart rate, oxygen levels, and blood pressure. Every dip, every pause, every subtle irregularity lines up with the moment's Atlas signals. The realization settles slowly, firmly. The dog sees what the instruments do not. He has been attentive to a pattern, to an anomaly that has evaded human observation because it is not a pattern of numbers, but a pattern of intent. Emily glances back at Atlas and notices a barely perceptible adjustment in his stance, the way his front paw shifts to rest against the wall, the subtle tilt of his head, the focus in his gaze. Each movement is deliberate, methodical, almost ceremonial in its precision. The rain outside maintains its rhythmic tapping, a soft percussion that blends with the low hum of monitors, creating a soundtrack of anticipation and quiet alertness. Malcolm lies still, oblivious to the corridor's tension, the bag beneath his bed untouched, yet central to the silent drama unfolding. Emily's mind returns to the first night she noticed Atlas, how his presence was not merely comforting but communicative, how he conveyed information without a single sound. Now, with Voss in the hall, she understands the full weight of that vigilance. The doctor's polished movements, the slight shift of his hand toward the pocket, the faint crease in his brow, all of it registers in Atlas's precise response. Emily notes the interplay between instinct and experience, the way Atlas interprets human behavior as much as he reads the environment, the way his training amplifies his natural acuity, allowing him to act as both guardian and interpreter of subtle signals. She steps closer to the glass, maintaining her distance while aligning her line of sight with his, tracing the path of his awareness from the dog tags beneath the bed to the pocket in question. The corridor is still, every other sound muffled or distant, yet the tension vibrates in the air, a delicate, almost imperceptible energy that seems to emanate from Atlas himself. Emily feels the weight of responsibility settle over her, recognizing that this night, this series of observations, may determine whether a subtle but critical intervention occurs in time. Atlas shifts again, nose dipping slightly, tail still, ears forward, a silent herald indicating that the next moment is critical. She watches as Voss subtly adjusts his posture, unaware or dismissive of the scrutiny from the white guardian at the door. The interplay continues, a slow dance of intent and awareness, a test of vigilance measured not in seconds but in patience and precision. Emily inhales, grounding herself, allowing the rhythm of Atlas's presence to guide her focus, to attune her senses to the unspoken narrative unfolding in the hallway and the room beyond. Every breath she takes, every careful movement, aligns with the dog's silent signals, and she realizes that the boundary between observer and participant has shifted. She is no longer merely reviewing charts. She is witnessing, comprehending, and preparing to act based on cues that exist beyond data alone. The monitors continue their soft beeping, the rain tapping on the glass, the occasional distant shuffle of staff, and amidst it all, Atlas remains, unwavering and precise, a sentinel of instinct and loyalty, communicating in a language Emily is only beginning to understand, a language of stillness, presence, and the silent insistence that someone must notice, someone must respond. That the truth is waiting to be revealed in the quiet observance of a dog who has learned patience and fidelity in equal measure. The storm outside escalates, rain hammering the windows with a steady insistence, filling the hospital corridor with a soft, rhythmic percussion that seems to echo the tension within. Atlas remains at the threshold, every muscle taut and alert, eyes locked on the left pocket of Dr. Nathan Voss's coat as he shifts subtly, weight balanced, and poised for observation. Dr. Emily Carter watches him carefully, noticing the minuscule adjustments in posture, the subtle flaring of nostrils, the way the dog shifts a paw to maintain line of sight without breaking his stance. The hallway is quiet except for the distant hum of machinery and the occasional shuffle of night staff, all unaware of the silent vigilance taking place in front of room 412. Inside, Staff Sergeant Malcolm Hayes lies under the pale hospital sheets, his breathing even yet faintly uneven, a small drift in oxygen saturation catching Emily's attention as she monitors the chart. She senses, almost physically, the bridge of perception that Atlas maintains, connecting the visible and the hidden, translating instinct into the language of alert presence. Each tap of his paw against the linoleum floor, each tilt of his head, every focused blink conveys a message Emily has learned to interpret over hours of observation. Something is amiss, something needs attention, and the dog has already identified the source. Voss steps closer to the room, tablet in one hand, the other adjusting his coat pocket in a casual gesture, unaware that every micro-movement is registered and processed by Atlas with precision beyond human comprehension. Emily holds her breath, noting the way the dog positions himself exactly between Voss and the door, blocking the line of approach without overt aggression, a study in disciplined presence. She feels the quiet pressure of responsibility settle over her, knowing that her actions now must align with the signals Atlas has been giving throughout the night. She watches as Voss glances down, noticing the dog, his expression briefly uncertain, then smooths into practiced calm. Atlas remains steadfast, amber eyes unwavering, body balanced, every subtle shift a language of caution and intent. Emily approaches the glass door, hands hovering near the frame, aligning herself with the dog's line of sight to observe the small, nondescript bag beneath Malcolm's bed where the dog tags rest. The ambient light reflects off the plastic cover, glinting faintly like a silent warning. Emily's pulse quickens as she recognizes the significance of Atlas's attention, the deliberate rhythm of his signaling, the patience embedded in every movement. Rain continues its percussion, the soft hum of monitors punctuating the silence. She notes the minor, almost imperceptible changes in Malcolm's vitals that occur each time Voss shifts in the hallway, the pattern consistent, deliberate, and aligning with Atlas's reactions. The dog steps slightly forward, nose dipping to catch a subtle scent, tail still, ears forward, communicating through movement what words cannot convey. Emily realizes that the information Atlas has been conveying is critical, that the sequence of behaviors is a map pointing to a truth not yet acknowledged, and that her own understanding must rise to meet it. She moves deliberately, aligning her body with his vigilance, feeling the shared awareness of presence and intention. Atlas shifts again, paw brushing lightly against the linoleum. Tap, tap, tap. Each strike a punctuation, a call for attention, a subtle signal that demands comprehension. Emily follows the cues, eyes tracing the dog's line of vision to the pocket of Voss's coat, recognizing the focus and intent behind the posture, understanding that Atlas is not merely alert, but is actively communicating concern, identifying risk, and demanding recognition. The combination of storm, rain, distant night sounds, and soft hospital hum creates a soundtrack of anticipation, tension, and unspoken urgency. Emily senses the weight of the night pressing in, the responsibility to act in alignment with the silent guidance of Atlas, to interpret the signals, to understand the meaning encoded in stillness, in posture, in amber eyes, in the precise tapping of pause. She remains poised, calm, attentive, translating instinct into comprehension, bridging the gap between human and canine awareness. Outside, the storm persists, relentless yet measured, and within the quiet corridor, Atlas continues his vigil, a sentinel of insight and loyalty, guiding Emily's attention to what has been hidden, ensuring that the subtle yet critical truths are not overlooked, that the patient under the sheets is observed, understood, and protected not only by medical expertise, but by the extraordinary awareness of a creature trained to perceive the imperceptible, to act with patience and precision, to communicate through presence, and to hold watch until understanding and safety align. The power does not go out all at once. It flickers first, a nervous blink across the ceiling panels, then steadies for half a breath before the intensive care unit falls into the blue hush of emergency backup lights. The monitors stay alive. The ventilators continue. The nurses at the station lift their heads, listening for alarms that do not come. Outside, rain lashes the windows so hard the glass trembles in its frame. And for one strange second, St. Mercy Hospital feels less like a building and more like a ship holding its place in dark water. Dr. Emily Carter turns toward room 412 just as Atlas moves. Not a bark. Not a leap. He slips away from the door with sudden purpose, white paws soundless against the floor, crossing the corridor in 3 swift strides toward the nurse's station. Emily's first instinct is to call him back, but he is already there, standing beside her, his teeth closing gently around the sleeve of her lab coat. No force, no panic, just pressure, a request shaped like command. She looks down into his amber eyes and sees something that makes the breath leave her chest. He is not asking to get inside. He is asking her to follow. Behind her, Dr. Nathan Voss says, "Dr. Carter, perhaps you should let security handle the animal." His voice remains smooth, but the storm has taken some of the warmth from it. Emily does not answer. Atlas releases her sleeve and turns back toward Malcolm's room, then looks over his shoulder, making sure she is coming. The backup lights paint his white fur in shades of blue and silver, and the old harness across his shoulders looks darker now, the faded letters United States Marine Corps barely visible in the dim corridor. Emily follows, every step measured, every sense sharpening. The hallway smells of rain-soaked wool, floor cleaner, warm plastic from the equipment, and something sharper beneath it, something medicinal and out of place. Atlas stops at the glass door and taps once, then twice, then a third time. Inside the room, Malcolm Hayes remains still beneath the sheets, his face turned slightly toward the window, the monitor beside him glowing steady green. But the intravenous line has changed. Emily sees it before she fully understands it. The tubing hangs at a slightly different angle. The clamp is not where she left it. The pump screen still shows the correct setting, but the secondary port near the line has a trace of moisture on the clear plastic, a tiny shine no one would notice unless they had been taught to look by a dog that would not stop staring. Emily steps into the room. Atlas remains outside the threshold, body rigid, eyes fixed past her shoulder. "Dr. Carter," Voss says from the hall, "closer now. This is unnecessary." Emily keeps her voice calm. "Please stay where you are." The words surprise even her. They do not sound frightened. They sound final. She reaches for gloves, pulls them on slowly, and inspects the line. Her training takes over, but beneath it is another rhythm now, the rhythm of 3 taps on glass, night after night, asking someone to look lower, closer, deeper. She disconnects the questionable section and seals it in a specimen bag from the bedside drawer. The clear tubing trembles slightly in her hand. Not from danger, from the weight of what it means. A nurse named Patricia steps into the doorway, eyes wide. What is happening? Emily does not look away from the line. Call pharmacy. Call the charge nurse. I want every medication given to Sergeant Hayes in the last 48 hours verified by barcode, vial, and waste record. Voss gives a soft laugh from the corridor. That is an extreme response to a dog's behavior. Atlas turns his head toward him so slowly that the motion feels almost human. No sound comes from the shepherd now. That silence is worse than a growl. Emily looks at Voss's left coat pocket again. The fabric pulls slightly downward. "Empty your pocket, please," she says. The corridor stills. Patricia looks from Emily to Voss. Voss smiles with weary patience, as if speaking to someone who has misunderstood a harmless thing. "Dr. Carter, you are tired." "I am observant," she says. "And so is he." For the first time, Voss does not answer immediately. A security officer appears at the end of the unit, called by the nurse sometime during the flicker of lights. He is a broad man with kind eyes and rein on the shoulders of his jacket, moving carefully so he does not startle the dog. Emily keeps her gaze on Voss. "Pocket," she says again. Voss exhales, then reaches in slowly and removes a small capped vial with no hospital label, only a narrow strip of white tape wrapped around the glass. Patricia covers her mouth with one hand. The security officer steps closer, not touching anyone, simply placing himself between Voss and the room. Emily takes the vial in a second specimen bag, without letting her fingers brush his. Her heart is pounding now, but her voice remains low. "You will wait here until administration and military police arrive." Voss's eyes flick briefly toward the bed, then toward the sealed personal effects bag beneath it. It is so quick Emily nearly misses it. Atlas does not. The shepherd's ears rise. His body angles toward the lower shelf beneath Malcolm's bed, toward the plastic bag holding the dog tags. Emily follows his gaze, and a cold understanding begins to open inside her. The line was only part of it. The vial was only part of it. Whatever Malcolm carried into this hospital, whatever had kept Atlas awake through rain and fluorescent nights, was still here, still hidden, still being guarded. The storm presses against the glass. The backup lights hum overhead. Malcolm's monitor continues its steady, fragile song, and Atlas stands at the doorway with rain-damp fur and ancient patience, no longer trying to prove anything, because at last someone has seen enough to believe him. Emily does not touch the personal effects bag right away. She stands beside Malcolm Hayes's bed with the sealed vial in one hand and the disconnected intravenous line in the other, listening as the storm moves across the hospital windows like a living thing. The backup lights have faded back into normal power, yet the room still feels changed, as if the darkness has left fingerprints behind. Patricia waits near the door, pale and silent. The security officer keeps Dr. Nathan Voss in the corridor, not with force, but with the calm firmness of a man who knows when a hallway has become a boundary. Atlas remains exactly where he is, just outside the room, his body angled toward the lower shelf beneath Malcolm's bed. He is no longer watching Voss's pocket. He is watching the dog tags. Emily follows his gaze again, slower this time, letting her eyes settle on the clear hospital bag marked with Malcolm's name, date of admission, and patient identification number. Inside are a folded wallet, a black watch with a scratched face, a wedding band on a short chain, and the dull silver glint of 2 military tags. One tag lies flat. The other rests at an odd angle, its edge lifted slightly, as if it is thicker than it should be. Emily feels something cold pass through her. She has seen dog tags before. Her brother Aaron still hangs from the rearview mirror of her father's old pickup in Richmond. They are simple things. Light. Flat. Made to carry a name when the voice cannot. This one looks wrong. "Patricia," Emily says quietly, "I need you to witness this." Patricia steps closer, swallowing hard. "Should we wait for military police?" Emily looks at Malcolm's monitor. His heart rate has steadied, but his body is still balanced on the narrow bridge between sleep and return. "We will document every step," she says. "But if this is connected to what was just found, I am not leaving it unattended." Atlas gives one soft breath against the glass. Not a whine, not a bark, almost relief. Emily takes the personal effects bag from beneath the bed and places it on the clean tray table. She photographs the seal with her hospital phone, scans the label, calls the charge nurse into the room, and opens the bag with scissors while everyone watches. The room seems to shrink around the tiny sound of plastic parting. She lifts the dog tags by the chain. They swing gently in the pale light, catching reflections from the monitor and the rain-smeared window. Malcolm's name is stamped into the metal. Hayes, Malcolm J., United States Marine Corps. Blood type. Identification number. Faith. The second tag feels heavier in her gloved palm. Emily turns it over and notices a hairline seam running along the edge, so fine it could have been a scratch. Her breath catches. Patricia leans in. Is that supposed to be there? Emily shakes her head. She presses gently near the corner. Nothing happens. She tries again, this time sliding a fingernail along the seam. A thin metal plate shifts. The room goes very quiet. From inside the tag, no larger than a postage stamp, slips a black microdrive wrapped in transparent medical tape. Patricia whispers, "Oh my God." Emily does not answer. For a moment, she can only look at it. This is not medicine. Not a charting error. Not a misunderstanding born from exhaustion and rain. This is a reason. This is why a respected doctor came to an intensive care unit before dawn. This is why a Marine remained trapped in a silence no scan could explain. This is why a white dog sat through night after night, reading the room with the patience of prayer. Atlas lowers himself to the floor outside the door, but his eyes stay open. Emily seals the microdrive in an evidence bag. The security officer radios for hospital administration and military police. Voss says something in the hallway, too low for Emily to hear, but his voice has lost its polish. She looks toward him only once. His eyes are not on the vial anymore. They are on the tag, and that tells her enough. Minutes stretch. The hospital wakes slowly around them, unaware that in one blue-lit room, a hidden truth has just stepped out of a soldier's nameplate. When the military police arrive, two officers in dark rain jackets move with quiet professionalism. Emily explains every step, her voice steady, though her hands still feel the memory of the tag opening. One officer connects the microdrive to a secured laptop brought from their vehicle. No one speaks while the files load. The first folder appears under a plain label, Annex Supply Review. Then another, Patient Outcomes. Then another, Voss Correspondence. Emily feels Patricia grip the bed rail beside her. The documents are not dramatic at first glance. Numbers, shipment dates, medication batches, names of recovering service members transferred between facilities. But then the pattern emerges. Experimental sedatives listed as standard medication. Missing labels. Quiet corrections. Men and women whose setbacks had been written off as complications. Malcolm had found it. Malcolm had carried it. Malcolm had hidden it in the one place he trusted Atlas would never stop guarding. Emily turns toward the bed. Malcolm's hand, the one closest to the rail, shifts by less than an inch. So small the monitor barely notices. But Atlas does. The dog rises instantly, ears forward, eyes bright for the first time all night. Emily steps to Malcolm's side and lowers her voice. "Sergeant Hayes, you are safe. We found it." His fingers move again, faint but real, curling once against the sheet like a man reaching from underwater toward the sound of shore. Atlas presses his nose to the glass, and a soft sound leaves him, not trained, not controlled, almost broken with relief. Emily feels her eyes burn, but she does not look away. The truth is no longer hidden beneath the bed. The medicine line is sealed. The dog tags are open. Outside, the storm begins to soften over Norfolk, and inside room 412, the man who had been silent for days gives the first fragile sign that he has heard them.